session panelists and speakers. May I please invite Dr. Venkataramana, founder CEO of Avera. He is the session chair. May I please request you to join us. Ladies and gentlemen, do join me in extending a very warm and hearty welcome to him. May I now invite our panelist, Mr. Philip Asmus, CEO and founder of Frischgen, Switzerland. Mr. Sachin Gupta, Managing Partner, UV Capital Private Limited. Dr. Julie Riviere, Country Director, GIZ India and Bhutan. An extremely warm welcome to our eminent panel here. Let's have a
service 10 years back. Now it is an essential part of any valuation framework, not only at the time of the investments, but during the life cycle of the asset class as well. So there are stringent quarterly norms which have to be fulfilled, and there is a regular monitoring that wherever the investment is going, there is a thorough investigation of the ESG factors on regular basis, and that the assets adhere to the compliance which they had promised at the time of the investment. So I would say going forward, this theme of climate risk management and ESG is going to become an essential part of any investment framework, not only when it comes to the equity investments, but also in the debt underwriting. So now more and more commercial banks and the NBFCs, as well as the credit funds, one of our own, here the ESG and the climate compliance is becoming a critical factor even at the time of the underwriting the case. At the same time, you will see that even the insurance premium are going to vary with depending on if the asset or the company is compliant towards these climate changes and the risk management. So all in all, if you are compliant, you will see a superior access to the funds and lower cost of capital. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sachin. And now we go to Mr. Sunil Nambiya. He's the Head of Operations for Group Strategies, Sustainability and Communication, YCS Group, as I mentioned earlier. He got a lot of expert in supply chain resilience. And as you stated in Singapore, so I request you that how Singapore looks at these things, and you got a lot of experiences in logistics, right? Yeah, your thoughts please on this. Thank you so much.
Thanks Venkata, and thanks to CII and the government of Andhra Pradesh for organizing this event. I represent YCH Group, which is a logistics company which started in Singapore in the 1950s. It's since grown to 15 markets around the region, including in India. Sustainability has been a key priority for us, and for two key reasons. I think first, I would touch on what Julie said earlier, that we are feeling the impacts of climate change everywhere, right? And for supply chains, this is more acute, this is more existential, because when supply chains are disrupted, when energy sources are disrupted, it means we cannot operate as a logistics business. So this is something that is a key priority for us. We need to look at it closely for the next few years. And we've set two targets in this respect. I think one of it is to get to net zero for scope 1 and 2 emissions in all our markets, including in Singapore and in India by 2040. For scope 3 emissions, we're looking at 2050 as well. So the principle we've taken for this, and very much with the support of both the Singapore government as well as the government here in India, is to start very early. So here in India, we actually built the first LEED certified warehouse across India in the early 2000s. In some of the other markets we're in, we also were the first company to bring in a LEED certified warehouse as well. So the buildings that we operate in become the key part and the most foundational aspect in terms of how we move towards sustainability. It means that our air conditioning costs lowered, our heating requirements in certain markets are lowered as well, and workers at the same time within these facilities are able to operate comfortably as well. It's a nice environment to work in. It is not hardship as well. So we make sure that our buildings are as sustainable and as ethical as possible for everyone within it. At the same time, we are also integrating renewable energy across all our operations. In my office in Singapore, in the building, we have 9,000 solar panels on our rooftops. Here in India, we are also moving towards solarization of our entire warehouse operations as well. The second is also integrating newer forms of renewable energy, including biomass, to further reduce our emissions footprint from there. The third is, if we look at it as an ecosystem, so I've started off with the buildings and the warehousing, then we move into how we power the buildings. And the third part of it is how we move goods between buildings. So in that respect, we have brought in electric vehicles. In Singapore, we brought in the first electric prime mover. By 2030, we're going to cut the purchase of all conventional vehicles and move fully towards low emission and electric vehicles. And what this means very tangibly is that we reduce our footprint very significantly across the different markets as well. But I've talked a lot about the infrastructure, but underpinning all this has to be the technology side of things. So we need to actively monitor how we are operating, what sort of climate risks are coming about as well. So what we've moved towards is the digitization of our metering. So in all countries, we can see exactly what our carbon footprint is. If we are producing too many emissions as well, we are able to look at it and then step in very closely. Although we are a private company and we have no obligation to produce a sustainability report, next week we'll be launching our inaugural sustainability report, purely on our own volition, because we see this as the right thing to do in terms of transparency, in terms of being open about our emissions. So it is an ecosystem, it is an entire architecture in terms of how we feel we should develop sustainability and how we should move forward with it. But we have been blessed by tremendous support, both from Singapore government as well as the government here in India, in terms of taking this forward as well.
Thank you so much, Sunil, for your sustainable practices, even though it's a private company. Thank you so much. Now, I want to come to Dr. Julie. As you highlighted about farmers, right? So, to get into deeper of the farmers' climate risk faced by them, as you know that CII is one industry body which works so closely on policy advocacy for the government of India and for the government of respective states. So I want your thought process and any kind of some suggestion or recommendation through CII which can go to government of Andhra Pradesh and then government of India. Anything, because see, end of the day, like, you know, the cyclones, right? It's one of the common factor now. If you see, even our travel got disrupted randomly. That's a very small part. It's a niche. But coming to case of farmers, they are the one we are here today. So I want to add on some more thoughts so that definitely we can make some record and we can make a policy advocacy through the respective governments. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to give it a good try. And it's not only insurance, because insurance is there when it already has happened. Yeah? Let me try and spell out some possibilities, some things that need to be done before it even happens. So there are mitigation and adaptation strategies that really need to be in place. And we all know about that. So what does it mean? That means that we need to think of how to work with the farmers for them to adapt and use different planting strategies, seeding strategies, use water differently. You know, water is pretty much free in a number of states here in India. So what the farmers oftentimes do, they just leave the tap on, that they don't have to go to the fields. And what it does is, you have water all over the field, the nutrients are all coming out, the field is totally flooded, and the crop is going to suffer. So, it is important to impress on the farmers that that is not the right thing. But then, if they have no other chance but to actually, water all the time, while they sit maybe 2, 3, 4 kilometers back at home, we came up with the idea of developing a digital tool which tells them when to water the fields, so that then they can shut off the constant water supply and only water when it's really necessary. That way, the nutrients stay in the soil and the crops have a chance to really be good crops. Then, of course, we have to think about different seedlings, yeah? All of these beech and paniri. The paniri need to really be different because the ones that we have, for instance, if you're in Andhra and you import them from Punjab, these poor paniri really suffer on the trucks all the way to Andhra, plus they are not the right ones for this kind of an environment. So you need to really have paniri, these little seedlings, that you grow in some kind of a greenhouse that can be done here in Andhra, much less expensive, they're available, and they are going to be drought or whatever, climate resistant, and that is another way of them saving money and having the right seedlings for their soil. Thirdly, you have to think of what to grow, because what was possible years and years ago might not be possible now, so you have to think about different crops, you have to have different crops during different seasons, so it's a whole cycle that is really necessary to consider if you think about how to mitigate the risks of them losing their crops. So the insurance comes at the end, but there is so much that needs to be done before it gets there. So what is necessary is that you work with the self-help groups, you work with all of the communities that are there, that feed into the FPOs. That whole ecosystem needs to be dealt with in order for the crops to really have a chance to be good crops, and for the tomatoes to really have a chance not to be sold only in the village, but also to go to the next village and for the farmers to make more money. Then I'm coming to solar water pumps and all of these things. So if there are solar water pumps and the fields get watered by those solar water pumps, the people do save money, because they don't need electricity anymore, and because they save money, they're possibly then able to invest in scooters or whatever to transport their tomatoes and potatoes and whatever it is to the next village. So there's so many things that can be done to help the farmers, and specifically the women, to actually improve their current situation. But in order for that to happen, we really need to work with organizations on the ground, and all of that takes a lot of time and a lot of people and hand-holding to actually change the mentality and capacitate these farmers who are eager to learn, because they see that they're heading for disaster and they don't have the knowledge to actually change anything. But I can tell you from my experience, they're so eager, and specifically the women, they are so eager to learn, and what they're all coming up with, it is absolutely amazing in all of India. You know, from fish farming to mangoes, to drying whatever there is under the sun. It is unbelievable. And these women really emerge as leaders of the community, help other women, and are doing fantastic jobs. So wherever you are, just think about it, reach out to the closest communities, or make sure that they get the help that they need in order to change, because they are willing, they want to have a better life, they want their children to go to school, and they are necessary, as I said earlier, for the for India to move forward and to reach the goals that they have set themselves to reach. They're there and they're eager, and I think it is for all of us to think what we can do from wherever we are to help them.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jolie, on your inputs. We definitely make observations on these things so that it can go to the government. Thank you. And coming to Sachin, that because the time restriction, I want you to request to make it simple and crystal clear. How the climate risk influence the investments portfolios, especially in this scenario? Sachin, it's to you. Yeah. Maybe I think we are not able to hear.
Yeah. Well, over the next decade, the climate risk will fundamentally reshape the way India Inc. and the investors make equity investments in India. I clearly see four channels wherein there is a direct impact of the climate risk. One is the physical risk, second is transition risk, third is regulatory risk, and fourth, which is very critical for any investment decision, is the cost of capital. I'll take these issues one by one. One is physical risk, wherein there is direct impact on the asset quality and the cash flows. India is amongst the most vulnerable countries in the world in terms of the impact by the climate change. So what it means as an investor and while making an investment or incurring capex is you have to put incremental capex for the changing climate conditions because we are seeing more frequency and severity of the natural disasters like floods, heat waves, and cyclones in India. So you have to have asset class which is climate change proof for at least few decades to come. So that's number one. Second is volatility in the operational costs. So whenever there are calamities which are much more beyond the natural comprehension, there will be volatility in your operating costs. And see what it means to the business preparation going forward is that you have to factor in those extreme conditions and account for that. So there will be a direct impact on the industries like food processing, infrastructure, logistics, real estate, and even BFSI in terms of the insurance coverage they have to do to take in account for such changes which are happening. Well, the companies and the sectors which will be better prepared for the future events will be much better placed and will definitely get higher valuation than their peers. Second is transition risk. So as we speak, the policy and the technological advances are towards decarbonization of the world. For example, there is a global supply chain pressure from the European Union's CBAM regime, wherein the heavy industries and which are the major cause for pollution like the steel, the metals, the chemicals, they have to undergo transition and become greener in their operations. What it means to them is loss in the margin and regulatory pressure going forward. The brown assets, for example, the thermal power plants, we are already seeing they are being penalized, for being in the wrong place. And there is a valuation discount which the market is putting to them. At the same time, you would have seen that no institutional investor is touching or putting more investments into the the asset class which is polluting. So this means going forward that there will be a pressure on this particular sector, and any investor who is looking to invest going forward into the future, he will think whether this asset or asset class it adheres to the global norm of keeping the climate change temperature within 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is the global target. Third risk, which I feel is the regulatory risk. For example, SEBI has already put in norms, ESG norms for the top 1,000 listed companies in India. Earlier, this norm was voluntary. Now it has been made mandatory. And going forward, there will be more pressure and compliance requirements from the government body side, including SEBI. For the bigger companies, it's even more stringent because they are integrated globally. And so while they have to adhere to the domestic norms, they also adhere to the global norms of the West.
Sachin, with the time restriction we have, because we have something to do, so I want to finish it off. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just summarize So in terms of regulatory risk, so the companies which are adhering to those plans and preparing in advance, they will definitely trade at a higher multiple. And fourth, which is the most critical for my discussion point, is the cost of capital. Very close to my heart, being an investor myself, I know that if you are climate change and ESG compliant, you can get longer debt at a lower cost. You attract superior equity capital, which again comes at a lower cost, and you get lower insurance premium. So all in all, it means that your cost of capital is going down, and the market will provide premium to the valuation. So ESG and climate change risk matrices, they are not just a lip service or ESG norms anymore. They are going to change the way we are going to invest, and they are the valuation drivers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sachin. And may I now invite CII, where they are prepared to release two important reports. One is on resilience framework of Eluru and West Godavari districts, and the second one is on building climate resilience for Indian industry. And I request that
Ladies and